All right, for the rest of the hour, we're going to be talking to Joanna Scott and Jerri Lynn Ward, both activists. I believe they're both lawyers. Down at the press conference last week fighting the Senate Bill 1440. They have similar bills around the country to kidnap people's children without a warrant, without a court order, without a judge's order, just to come grab them for any reason if they want to, because they got in trouble kidnapping those 400-plus kids from those Mormons. It turned out it was all made-up lies, and the Supreme Court said they did wrong. So they just said, you know what, we'll just pass a law saying there's no more Fourth Amendment in Texas. And, of course, you can say, well, they got to do this to keep kids safe. Depending on which federal numbers you look at, 5 to 7 times more likely for CPS to abuse children than any other group. I mean, this is a very dangerous crew of people. So we'll talk to those folks coming up here in just one moment. Before we do that, I want to tell you about a few of the sponsors that have made this radio show possible today, and sponsors I believe in. When you're on Infowars.com, look for Max the Little Orange Gorilla. And Max the Little Orange Gorilla is a banner that will lead you to homegain.com. That's their mascot, HOMEGAIN.com. And it's a free site, been around for more than 10 years. You enter in your street address or address of a house you're looking at. It will tell you internally what the realtors are seeing, what the market really thinks your house is worth, or what the house you're looking at is worth. An invaluable tool, a bunch of other free tools like the Home Sale Maximizer. You enter into that, some of the less expensive upgrades you could do to a house or repairs that will increase the resale value the greatest. I mean, basically, this gives you all the insider tricks that the realtors know that they don't tell you when you're buying or selling a house. So homegain.com. Be sure and check that out. Also, mysolarbackup.com. This is a great little solar power unit. It's got 1,800 watts of power on demand in the event of any disaster or outage. And so with the depression, with the talk of war, with the government wanting to restrict how much power you can have, wanting to jack up prices, it's just great to start getting off the grid. And these are great little solar power generators that will help you start in that direction. MySolarBackup.com. The website's MySolarBackup.com. That's one word, MySolarBackup.com. Or 877-327-0365. 877-327-0365. MySolarBackup.com. And in closing, while we're talking about what supports the show and makes it all possible, I'm slashing the price of Endgame to $9.95 because this film is so important. 2 hours, 40 minutes long. The globalist master plan, the architecture of the New World Order, how they operate. It is slashed in price. And if you get MAFA 21, Black Genocide in the 21st Century America, I guess that's Zulu for murder or genocide. And this is this uses some of the work of Endgame, but to document just how the eugenicists are using the family courts. The family courts were set up in the U.S. to sterilize blacks, kill blacks, euthanize black babies. And that's also covered in Endgame, but only like 5 minutes of Endgame gets into that. I cover the whole spectrum of the CPS courts are illegitimate. They don't have due process because they were set up as race hygiene courts. Then Hitler picked them up from the U.S. and England. So we hope you get that, because Endgame's only $9.95 when you get it with this new eugenics film, and also Life on the Edge of a Bubble, documenting what the bankers are doing, how they're running all this. Okay, I apologize to Jerri Lynn Ward and Joanna Scott, because our power went out last week, and we had battery backup, but we weren't sure if we'd be able to stay up, and sure enough, the batteries ran out in 20 minutes, so it was a good thing when we went to rebroadcast, because we couldn't have the show disrupted. But they're here now covering SB 1440. And Jerri Lynn Ward, introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll get Joanna Scott to introduce herself, and then let's break down what this bill does.
Yes, thank you, Alex, for having me on. I'm an attorney here in Austin, Texas, and I got involved in this because a year ago I became so outraged about CPS taking those 400-some FLDS kids, and I decided to volunteer to help one of the dads fight CPS. And I entered a world that I didn't even know existed before that time. And I'm as horrified as you at these CPS courts and at the whole system. I've practiced law for 29 years, and I did civil trial in other areas, and they think that they don't have to follow the rules of due process in these courts and with regard to CPS. It's just horrifying.
Well, 34 states by 1930 had passed the eugenics race laws, And I'm just telling you this because, see, you were in the real court system, and then you entered the constitutional system. Then you entered the parallel universe of the family court, the health department, racial hygiene. And this is the Max Kaiser, Kaiser Wilhelm, not Max Kaiser, the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. This is that whole system the Rockefellers funded for race hygiene. So that's why these courts don't operate with due process. But now they want to, I guess, remove the final link. So let's bring up Joanna Scott. Joanna, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am actually not an attorney. I am a parent advocate. I'm executive director for a 501c3 organization that I founded with my sister called Parent Guidance Center, and we exclusively advocate for these parents that are involved with the Child Protective System.
Boy, I bet you get flooded with the millions of kids they're snatching every year. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to Jerri Lynn Ward. And then we'll go back to Joanna. Jerry, for about 5 minutes, break down what you've seen in the courts, what this new bill does. It's on the governor's desk, how we defeat it. Then we'll get Joanna's take on it.
Well, what happened is that CPS got slapped down pretty good in the Supreme Court case, in the Third Court of Appeals case, in the FLDS case, but also in the Gary Gates case. And I believe that what this law is an attempt to get around the Gary Gates case. Now, they claim that the reason they introduced this bill was to affect what the Fifth Circuit said in the Gary Gates case, but in my opinion, they're not doing that. What they're trying to do is a halfway job that gives more power to CPS, that does not give the full constitutional protections that the Fifth Circuit had in mind, and essentially just empowers CPS to get into people's houses, especially people like homeschoolers or like who keep their kids at home, to whom CPS has no access at the government schools, but also like the FLDS, who had that private school at the ranch. So what this is an attempt to get in there. They purport that it's like a search warrant, but they don't have the protections for the affidavits that would underlie this order in aid of investigation that they're trying to codify.
Absolutely. It's a fake search warrant, a fake order. They can also use it to steal people's children out of the school, the way I've read the bill. Then there's a whole other area of discussion of how this passed, how Kirk Watson tagged it on a bill that wasn't as bad. Kirk Watson, of course, a great fount of wickedness. I've known him of old as the former Austin mayor, snatching people's property.
And Johanna can speak to that because she's the one that detected the problem and immediately reacted. And
let's go back to Joanna then. Scott here. Tell us, so you ferreted this out. You detected the skullduggery. Tell us about it.
Yes. Originally it was Senate Bill 1064, which was just to access a child's medical or mental records during an investigation. We watched it. It didn't have any... It wasn't that bad. I mean, it was just kind of a normal thing. Yeah, they kind of do this anyway. But they also had to leave to get those records. They had good cause shown, and the parents could have a hearing. And it was fine. I mean, it had due process. But
the problem is they always fill out fake reports anyways and lie. And like you said, they're already ignoring the law. They're just trying to retroactively get rid of the Bill of Rights because people are pointing out they're not following it. But go ahead.
But what they did, the original Senate hearing, is they did a committee substitute, which was nothing like the original, and it's what we see today. It was completely different, and all the players, they already knew that they had to have known that the substitute was coming because they were all ready, willing, and able to testify about it right then and there. We weren't at the hearing on the Senate side because, like I said, we didn't know about the committee substitute. We caught the committee substitute when it went to the House side, and that's where the, skullduggery or whatever you want to call it began, because we did have testimony at the House hearing before Patrick Rose's subcommittee on Human Services, and our testimony has apparently disappeared. We are on the film as, showing here's our cards being turned in, here's our written testimony. The hearing didn't happen that day. They didn't finish that hearing. They actually had a brand new hearing.
So regardless, he tagged this on without anybody knowing. It's now gone to the governor's desk. Are we getting anything out of Perry with the thousands of phone calls he's gotten and knowing it's going to be thrown out of court, but tens of thousands of kidnapped kids later?
We've heard crickets chirping so far.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. You have to remember this was something that certain people, including legislators, were told had to happen. The department was told, the department itself did not ask for this. The Department of Family Protective Services did not go, their administrative people, the commissioner go, oh, the Gary Gates decision is horrible. Oh, the FLDS should have never. They didn't go say, what can we do about this? This was a group, Tex Protects out of Dallas brought this bill.
Well, also, the way to go after Watson and people is they've had a lot of judges and people get in trouble for taking money from the foster parent lobbies and the child trafficking lobbies. It's what they are. They even have bounties. I've had